Lisa Benlon, February 18th, 1992, Kansas Women Lawmakers Oral History Project, Sarah Tucker, interviewer. This is an interview with Lisa Benlon. I'm Sarah Tucker. This is February 18th, 1992, the Kansas Women Lawmakers Oral History Project. And let me get on record that although you will be seeing the transcript of this and be given a chance to change anything you don't think is right, this is going to be printed up, made available in the Kansas State Historical Society of Washburn University, and used for scholarship in the future. Okay. You're Lisa Benlon. You are a Republican from the 17th District, and your home is in Shawnee.
That's correct.
Could you describe your district to me?
I represent, the largest portion of my district is in Shawnee. It is a suburban community. Along with parts of Shawnee, I also have a precinct in Lenexa, and I have 3 precincts in Overland Park.
Okay.
That will change with the reapportionment, where I will lose all of Overland Park, and I will have like 7 precincts in Lenexa and 5 precincts in Shawnee.
My goodness. Well, so what would you say is the character of your present district?
Present district is very suburbanite.
Very suburban. And is that going to stay that way with this change?
I will get, with the change, I will get more country. I will get some more somewhat urban, rural, if you want to call it rural. It's just the outskirts of the city that haven't developed as of yet. A lot of it's still agricultural land.
So a little more mixed, probably.
Right.
Tell me how you came to decide to run for the legislature. I noticed you were unopposed in the primary election and did win the general election, or you wouldn't be here. This is your first term. How did you come to decide to do this?
Actually, I was on the Shawnee City Council for about 3 years. I had both Democrats and Republican Party coming to me asking me to run on their ticket.
Oh, how interesting.
So I felt that if both parties were coming to me, then hopefully I could, I started taking it seriously at that point, and I had no intentions until I was approached about it.
Well, why did you choose to run on the Republican ticket?
Probably went back to my grassroots. I was raised in a Republican household. When I looked at my general feelings, I'm pretty much down the middle, but I did tend, when I feel one way or the other, I tend to fall towards Republican platform ideals rather than the Democrat. However, I think I could be comfortable in either party, but I probably do fall just slightly towards the Republican ideals.
Could you give me an idea of what it is that tilts you?
I am not real comfortable with unions.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that I don't think they have some good ideas, but I find that...
Alright, from McDonald's? I'm making the run. Wait.
I think that's probably the
Okay.
issue that probably rolls it more than anything is,
Okay.
is unions.
Can you sort of tell me what it is about unions like today that bothers you? I don't want to carry this too far, but this is interesting.
I am finding that people that I know that are in union situations are finding that unions are very protective of seniority especially, and not necessarily having to do with the quality of work that comes out of individuals. And it concerns me that sometimes the people that they are protecting are people that really they'd be better off not protecting. And I know they've got to make their guidelines somewhere, but I'm not sure I feel comfortable in where they make them.
Okay. It was a close race.
Yes.
You won by 51%. Tell me about the race. Why do you think you won?
Probably some of it was name recognition, being on the city council. I also feel like that from the time that I announced my candidacy, I started walking neighborhoods. I also had literature going out about once a month. I had something going out to my people. I did collect more money and raise more money than my opponent. And because of that, I feel like just that in general probably helped me.
Now, I'm assuming this was an open race since both parties were approaching you, so
Yes,
there was no incumbent, both of you.
that's correct.
Your opponent was also a woman. So were women's issues any part of this race? Whatever women's issues would be, of course.
I don't think they really were.
What were the issues?
I think abortion came into it. I think children's education came into it. And even though some people consider these women's issues, I really think they're everybody's issues.
Could you tell me what the difference was? Did you two take a different stand on any of these issues?
I was more pro-choice than my opponent was. Actually, when you get right down to it, we had a lot of the same ideals, and I think that was very difficult. I was told after the election that my opponent was chosen by the other party as a confusing factor. She was within a year or two of my age, very similar in stature, hairstyle, hair color, very much a confusion factor. Her name was Linda, mine was Lisa. And then when we really looked at our ideals and our positions on things, so often we agreed. So it was, I'm not sure that really clinched anybody's mind a definite difference.
Oh, very interesting. Tell me how you did come to get involved as a city council member then.
Actually, it was probably a NIMBY situation, not in my backyard. The city was proposing to change some zoning very close to me in location, and I got very concerned. They were wanting to put a shopping center, a very high traffic shopping center, and I was concerned as to the lack of information that they had put out on the center, and I didn't feel like we were getting the information we needed. So I started getting a group of people together that surrounded this area and said, you know, are you as concerned about this as I am? We very much opposed it. We fought the city for a long time on it. What I finally determined needed to be done is going to the builders, the people that were dealing with that, and we sat down in my living room and said, okay, you know, this neighbor wants a fence to protect her from this area, and this one wants berming done, and this one wants it, you know, everybody got their frustrations out on what they thought they could live with if they had to have it. We had them upgrade the center. We felt like we were very effective in, you know, communicating with them, and they agreed to all of our stipulations, and we said fine and dandy, we no longer oppose it. I wasn't real crazy about it still being there, but I felt like that we compromised, and we felt very good about it, and I love the center now. I mean, I shopped there, which at the very beginning I said there'll be no way, but you know, you do learn to compromise, and I think the art of compromising is something that's necessary up here as well. So.
Speaking of how one does a job up here, when you came, did you have an idea of what the job was going to be and how you were going to do it?
I had an idea of what the job was going to be. I had an idea of how I was going to do it, but it was not near as my idea of it up here was not near as difficult as it actually is.
Tell me about what's so difficult.
I think the juggling of the schedules. It seems like I have to get up very early in the morning to get here to find out what is on the schedule for that day to even be heard on the floor. It's a matter of reading bills. If something concerns you, it's a matter of tracking people down, trying to find information on it. It's a lot of trying to communicate with other people that have varying schedules from yours and trying to locate them and get information. I'm very concerned in making and not making decisions that I'm not knowledgeable about. And so if there's something that I don't feel comfortable with, I feel the need to go locate somebody before I make that decision. And then I've got 3 committees that I'm on, and
education, government organization, and local government, if I'm
right. Right.
Were these the committees you wanted?
I did win all 3 of them. I was very pleased to get them. Had I known that education issues were going to be so big this year, even though I feel very good in being there and a part of it, some of these meetings have been lasting 3 hours or longer. And again, it takes a big chunk out of there, out of the day's schedule. And then on top of that, having to communicate with my constituents and try and get newsletters out, try and communicate with their individual correspondence that comes in. It's a tough schedule for me to deal with.
Has there been a mentor or role model, somebody you've consulted or tried to model yourself after and how to do all this?
I've got a couple of people. The party actually chose a mentor for me that I feel very comfortable with. It's Nancy Brown from Stanley. Since we're both from Johnson County, you know, we kind of have the same ideals. She is very township-oriented and a little more rural-oriented than I am, but I think we really do work real well together. In fact, we work so well together that we're renting a home together this year after last year working together. I feel very comfortable with her, and there are times when she'll say, if I'm thinking I want to vote some way, she may say, Lisa, that's okay for me, but are you sure? Have you thought of this or this or this? So she's very careful in trying to help me make the decisions that are right for my district. Another person that I rely on a lot is Frank Weimer.
Okay.
He has an adjoining district to mine, and I feel very comfortable a lot of times in asking him questions. That doesn't mean that I vote with either one of them all the time, but I at least understand if they're up there voting differently than I am, I may give them a call and say, you know, why do you feel this way? And I feel very comfortable in relating to both of those people. And there's others that on certain issues I feel comfortable talking, you know, someone that may be an expert in one field or another. But those two I probably rely on more than any other people.
Have there been any issues or bills or controversies so far, I'm talking about a year and a third, that seem particularly memorable to you that you've been involved in? Or an issue you're working on now that seems
Probably the education issue right now. The district that I represent is Shawnee Mission School District in total, and in fact I'll probably pick up a little bit of DeSoto with the reapportionment, but right now it's totally Shawnee Mission, and they're doomed to get hurt quite severely. And I'm on an education task force with the county delegation and vice chairman of the county delegation this year. So I'm trying to really get my hands into it, and that being on the education committee, I think that probably gives me a plus that maybe some of the other delegates don't have.
Okay. Since this is a study that focuses on women, obviously one question we're going to ask you is, at any time involved with this whole process of being in the legislature, being asked to running, being here, has it seemed to you that being a woman has given you a different experience than if you've been a man?
I'm not sure I can answer that, Sarah, since I've never been a man.
Yeah.
I would say no, it probably hasn't. Now that may be very naive. I do believe that people state as a candidate, a woman has it a little easier only because if a man is running against her, she can play hardball with him, but when he plays hardball with her, it backfires on him. Since I did not have a man as an opponent, I can't answer that. I'm not sure that I can answer that question.
It's just a question we're asking everybody.
No, that's fine, and I'm not sure that I have an answer for that.
Turning to the other side of your life, your personal life, could you tell me a little bit about your original family, what your parents were like, where you were born?
I was born in Wichita in early to mid 50s, 53.
Mm-hmm.
I lived there about 10 years of my life, and then my father worked for Boeing. My mother was a housewife. Because of a massive layoff at Boeing at that time, we rerouted to Shawnee,
Mm-hmm.
and I've lived there most of my life since then. My family still lives there. My mother passed away about a year later, so I was 10, 11 years old at that time. My parents have been Republican, never extremely, stout Republicans. I kind of run the same philosophy they do. It's basically the person. I don't think either party has control of all good candidates. And I have voted for some Democrats in my days, as have my parents. So, it wasn't that I came from a strong Republican background and was determined to be one. I went through school. My father basically brought us up. He married during my high school years, but basically my father brought us up, and I have one sister that's 4 years older. I got married within a year out of high school. I had gone to Johnson County Community College during that time, and then once I got married, my husband, I dropped out of school so he could go to KU. So I basically, helped support him through KU. I never finished college. In fact, this last summer and fall, I went back to Johnson County Community College to pick up some classes. And I intend to someday go back and finish, but right now I don't even carry an AA degree. My main job that I've had is I managed an accounting office for Montgomery Ward for about 17 years, and then it decided to disband its office here and move it back to Chicago. They wanted to centralize, and so I found myself choosing to either go to Chicago with the company or out of a job, and I chose to be out of a job, and I didn't choose to go to Chicago. And with my husband's, you can't ask him to up and leave. So I've got two children. I've got two boys, 11 and 13 years old.
Okay.
And that's kind of where we are right now. My job just kind of happened to finish about the time when the parties approached me to run, so it just kind of fell right into place as far as time span. So I guess you could say I'm a housewife for the last 2.5 years maybe, and student part of that time, full-time student. So.
Okay. So your children were 12 and 10 when you first started in the legislature? How do you manage this? Do you say you rent a house, so you stay up here during the week?
I stay up here during the week. I generally go back. Some weeks it's Wednesday night. If I've got something going on, I feel like I can't go back then. I'll try and head home Tuesday and Thursday night, and then I go home on weekends.
And I'm assuming it's about
an hour drive.
Hour drive?
Yeah. Hour drive. So it's not bad.
Well, I-70 is a blessing compared to southeast Kansas, that's for sure. One of the questions I always ask is that indeed legislature's pay is not munificent, and how you manage financially to do this. I'm assuming here that your husband's pay is the major support of the family.
That's correct.
And you've already told me about how your one job ended, so it all kind of fit in. Are you planning to run again?
Yes.
Why?
I think I have really garnered a lot of support out there, and I've already had people asking me if I was planning on running again. And then also the way they drew my district, I feel very pleased with the way my district's come out and my new district, and I think I'll be real comfortable with it.
When you were running, and you were saying you went door to door, did you do this by yourself, with your family, with the help of some organizations? How do you do the terribly large job of going door to door?
I was determined that I was personally going to hit every door. There was, I think, 3 days that I had a friend that offered to go walk one side of the street while I walked the other. And then there was another 2 days that my family offered to walk one side of the street while I walked the other. But I just I'm not sure that even having someone with you really gets the same response. I was finding that the people on the side of the streets that they were on really just didn't relate well to them as I was getting related to. So I kind of said, thank you, I appreciate, I mean, I use all the help I can get, but in this case, I will go ahead and do it. And it took a lot of evenings, a lot of weekends. My family is very oriented to going out of town summers, weekends, and I did a lot of staying at home while they were out running around, and that was real tough. If I didn't have a husband that was as wonderful as he, I mean, he's a terrific Mr. Mom, and he just deals with things. He's so laid back and just wonderful with the boys, and I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't have that relationship back home.
So I take it at some point you discussed this with your husband, and he was all for your doing this and all of that.
Yes.
How do your kids like it?
I think they kind of think it's neat that Mom's up here doing this. I think my kids accept it a lot better than my husband. My husband and my relationship have always been very close, and we've always done everything together. And it was real hard for us to adjust that I wasn't going to be home that night, and you know, just the sitting down and talking, just the quiet time together that we'd always made time for, and we don't have now. And that was an adjustment for us. I think the boys kind of look at it as a men's night out on the nights that I'm up here, so they deal with it real well. I try and keep a lot of phone communication, so they don't forget who Mom is.
What do you imagine happening? Let's assume you just keep right on getting reelected. What are you hoping to accomplish eventually, and how will you know if you don't want to do this anymore?
I think if you're asking if I ever intend to be governor, no. If I ever intend to go to Washington, no. Being an hour away from home is tough enough for me. I would never have any intentions of going further. Being in the legislature, I enjoy right now, for now. Things could change. You never know what tomorrow brings, I guess, a cliche, but I'm just kind of living, you know, one year at a time. If it ever quits being fun, I will no longer be up here. I think once it quits being fun, then you start making poor policy, and I won't have any desire to be here, because I'd much rather be home with my family. So I keep trying to tell myself I'm doing this for my kids, and I'm doing this for my grandchildren when they happen to come along. So I'm hoping I'm making a positive difference. I don't know that I am, but I hope so. I think that the response I'm getting from back home is real good. So, and I guess on the other thing is that my people will tell me when they no longer want me up here. So, and when that happens, if I continue to run, then I'll know it by then.
Yeah, there is always that.
Yes.
Well, is there something you thought I'd ask you that I haven't? Something you'd like to say to get on the record?
No, I can't think of what it would be. I'm sure once you leave, I'll think of it.
Well, always happy to come back for a rerun. I want to thank you very much for making time.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time and being persistent to come back and get this.
Well, thank you.